2025 was a pretty decent year for historical movies overall, and there were some awesome historical films that got released over the past year, many of which you may not have seen yet. And in this video I will give you my recommendations of the top 10 historical movies of 2025. But before we begin, don't forget, if you love anything to do with historical movies and historical TV shows, then subscribe to my channel, History Spark. At number 10, it is William Tell, a medieval historical epic set in 14th century Switzerland during the brutal occupation by the Austrian Habsburgs. And this film depicts the legendary story of William Tell, the expert marksman and reluctant hero who stands up against tyranny after his family and homeland are threatened. Claes Bang stars as William Tell, delivering a performance that is amazing and very realistic. This movie also benefits from gritty battle sequences, breathtaking Swiss landscapes, authentic costume design, and a strong supporting cast. However, there are some flaws with this film, such as the pacing being very uneven and the plot is pretty unoriginal and doesn't really bring anything new to the historical genre either. But overall, if you're looking for a movie that has a relatively decent commitment to historical realism and does a great job of portraying the story of one of Switzerland's most legendary figures, then William Tell is the film for you. At number 9, it is Alto Knights, a mafia movie starring Robert De Niro, which will take viewers all the way back to the 1950s, when the mafia was at the peak of its power, and this story will depict the lives of two of the mafia's most important and well-known early members, Frank Costello and Vito Genovese. And Alto Knights was a commercial and critical failure, with many people being confused with why Robert De Niro was playing a dual role in this film, and this is a criticism I completely agree with. But eventually you do get used to which character De Niro is portraying, and the story here is fine, and this is a pretty run-of-the-mill mafia movie, and it is pretty much in line with what one would expect from a Robert De Niro mafia-based film. I would say this movie is definitely better than The Irishman, and I think anyone looking for a gripping and easy to follow mafia historical drama, then Alto Knights is the movie for you. At number 8, it is Kesari 2, a gripping historical courtroom drama set after the events that would occur after the horrific events of 1919's Jallianwala Bagh massacre, where thousands of innocent Sikhs, Hindus and Muslims peacefully protesting against British tyranny were mercilessly slaughtered by British General Mike O'Dwyer. And Kesari 2 depicts the story of Indian lawyers Sankaran Nair and Ananya Pandey, who take on the British Empire in a landmark legal battle to expose colonial atrocities occurring in India. This film has a truly engaging storyline told in a slow and methodical manner, amazing acting by the entire cast, and some brilliant cinematography as well. This is not your standard action-heavy historical drama, but a much more serious and slower-paced film, which I think any viewer of this channel could really benefit from watching. At number 7, it is Warfare, a modern war movie based around a real Navy SEAL mission gone wrong during the Iraq War in 2006, with communications officer Ray Mendoza and his SEAL platoon getting involved in a desperate fight for survival as the Navy SEALs come under heavy fire during a brutal fight for survival. This movie is fast-paced and action-heavy and is perhaps the best movie I've ever seen about the Iraq War so far. And with a 93% critic score and 93% audience score on Rotten Tomatoes, this seems to be the consensus amongst everyone who has watched this movie so far, and I highly recommend you watch it as soon as you get a chance, with this movie being available on Amazon Prime across many regions in the world. At number 6, it is Truth and Treason, a gripping historical drama from Angel Studios that chronicles the true story of teenager Helmut Hebner and his friends defying Nazi propaganda through secret leaflets in Germany during World War II, an act that will lead to some terrible and tragic consequences for the group. Truth and Treason benefits from spectacular acting, especially by Ewan Horrocks as Hubner, and the movie has some truly bleak and dreary cinematography, which really captures the emotional feel of the film perfectly. However, Truth and Treason is a bit more dialogue heavy than most World War II films, and the movie does struggle with pacing at times. But overall, if you're looking for a non-action heavy World War II drama, then Truth and Treason is my recommendation for you. At number 5, it is Chava, a historical film set during the late medieval period of Indian history when the Mughal Empire is at the height of its power, and this film tells the story of Sambhaji, the Maratha emperor, and his rebellion against the powerful Mughal emperor Aurangzeb. This film stars Vicky Kaushal as Sambhaji and Akshay Khanna as Aurangzeb, and both are spectacular in their roles. And Chava is your standard run-of-the-mill Bollywood historical epic with over-the-top battle scenes and action sequences, poor pacing and plot devices, musical scores that you can just skip cause they have nothing to do with the story, all of which are elements anyone familiar with Bollywood films will already be used to. But these criticisms can be overlooked because of the engaging overall storyline, brilliant acting of the cast, and some amazing cinematography, costume design and set pieces. So if you have any sort of interest in Indian history and the Mughal Empire, then Chava is my recommendation for you. At number 4, it is a samurai movie called 11 Rebels, which is an action film set during the 1868 Boshin War, as the era of the samurai is starting to come to an end. The story follows a group of 11 outcasts, criminals and samurais who are promised freedom if they can defend a fortress for the Shibata clan against government forces. 11 Rebels has amazing, intense action sequences, excellent production design, and a talented ensemble cast led by Takayuki Yamada. However though, the storyline here is a little bit confusing at times, but overall, if you are looking for an over-the-top, action-filled samurai adventure, then check out 11 Rebels as soon as you can. At number 3, it is Hamnet, a Renaissance drama which depicts the emotional story of William Shakespeare and his wife Agnes as they grapple with the tragic death of their 11-year-old son, Hamnet, exploring how this devastating loss inspired the creation of Shakespeare's greatest masterpiece, Hamlet. Hamnet is led by the brilliant acting of Paul Mescal as William Shakespeare and Jessie Buckley depicting his wife Agnes, with both of them doing a spectacular job of bringing their characters to life. Definitely some of the best acting I have seen in a historical film in a very long time. However, some viewers will find this film to be overly emotional at times, but all in all, if you haven't seen Hamnet yet, I highly recommend you do so, as it is definitely one of the best movies of 2025 for sure. And the second spot on this list goes to Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein, which in my opinion is perhaps the best depiction we have ever gotten of Mary Shelley's novel on the big screen so far. This Netflix original film stars Oscar Isaac as the egotistical Victor Frankenstein, and Jacob Elordi portrays the creature, and to be fair, the performance by Jacob Elordi was so amazing and easily one of the best performances in this movie. However, I do think it's a real shame that this film didn't get a proper theatrical run, as I think it could have made a lot of money and really gotten audiences invigorated and interested in historical movies again, as we haven't had a real blockbuster historical film released in some time now. But Frankenstein has a great plot, brilliant acting by the entire cast, and some excellent set pieces, costume design and cinematography. So if you haven't checked out Frankenstein and you have a Netflix subscription, then I highly recommend you add it to your watch list right now. And the top spot on this list goes to Nuremberg, a historical courtroom drama which chronicles the landmark post-World War II Nuremberg trials, where Allied prosecutors confronted Nazi leaders like Hermann Göring and Rudolf Hess on charges of war crimes and crimes against humanity. This movie is led by an all-star cast including Russell Crowe, Rami Malek and Michael Shannon, with all of them delivering believable and pretty good performances. And when you're watching the film, you truly do feel as if you are sat there watching the Nuremberg trials firsthand. This movie is super dialogue heavy, kind of like Oppenheimer, which I really enjoyed, but this could also put off some viewers as well. However, I think this film does a great job of shining a new light on the Nazis and the way they thought, and if you haven't seen Nuremberg yet, then I highly recommend you watch it as soon as possible. So let me know in the comments down below if there are any other great historical films for 2025 that I may have missed out on. And as always, if you want to stay up to date with everything to do with historical movies and historical TV shows, then subscribe to my channel, History Spark, and thank you so much for watching. Have a great day. Bye.